is exported to China, Taiwan, and Southeast Asia. These factories are in the initial stages of modernization, and Vietnam cannot yet afford the latest machinery. In part, it is because their workers see themselves as rooted in a craft's tradition and take pride in their mastery of traditional labor-intensive techniques. Scented candles, however beautiful, have pollution as their inevitable byproduct. At present, the Vietnamese people and government seem largely unaware of the dangers of pollution. Vietnamese success in the international market depends largely upon Vietnam's huge labor pool, which is highly educated, very disciplined, and by international standards, works very cheaply.
Another traditional craft that is being modernized is this metal foundry in Hue. Once a famous site for building temple bells, this foundry now creates largely religious items, both for the locale and for export. The technology of building temple bells is related historically to the work of casting cannon and large guns. The Vietnamese were famous throughout Asia for their fine firearms and their marksmanship. The work is a curious combination of traditional and modern techniques and materials, and like so much in Vietnam, it also produces Ho Chi Minh busts and statues. Another blend of the ancient and the modern is the manner in which a religious site, Marble Mountain near Da Nang in China Beach, has become an important element of the modern economy. Once huge carved Buddhas were sent all over Vietnam. Now, with the exodus of Vietnamese refugees to the United States and Europe, the market for carvings has paradoxically expanded. The so-called Marble Mountain at Da Nang illustrates the complexity of modern Vietnam. Here, traditional monks serve their gods in an ancient sanctuary with inscriptions hundreds of years old, some even left by the Cham. But during the war, the grotto served as a communist hospital, and today, marble is mined and carved for the export market. Despite their often awesome size, statues are exported all over Asia and to the United States, frequently as decorations for restaurants opened by Vietnamese who fled as refugees after the war. The lion is a remnant of Cham culture, as it was an important symbol to them.
Vietnamese rugs and carpets were in high demand for the European market before the Second World War, and the French, themselves experts in weaving and tapestry, helped modernize the Vietnamese industry. Now the French are largely gone, but their equipment and their know-how remains. The combination of traditional artistic themes, Vietnamese silk, and Vietnamese skilled hand labor with European technology has seen this industry reborn. Traditionally, most Vietnamese women, including those of wealthy families, embroidered. Making fine clothing or supervising the making of fine clothing was a large part of the traditional wife's responsibility. These women work in the various stages of assembling elaborate kimonos for the Japanese market. This factory is a result of Doi Moi, the Vietnamese economic reform, more than it is a response to domestic demand. However, it depends upon traditional skills. The women in this factory seem far more like sisters than co-workers. The atmosphere is relaxed and informal. A traditional craft in the Hue region, usually that of women, was extremely elaborate cooking. Vietnamese emperors routinely enjoyed banquets of many elaborate dishes, made not only to be exquisite in their combination of flavors, but also to be very beautiful to the eye.
The dragon is the very symbol of the Vietnamese court and of the emperor. It is the most common symbol encountered in classical Vietnamese decorative arts of the past and the present, even in daily routines such as cooking. It signifies good luck, imperial power, and cosmic forces that in general watch over and protect humanity.
The modern heir of those ancient chefs is Madame Lin, whose world-famous restaurant is the Garden of Tranquility. Madame Lin not only has the skills of the traditional imperial chef, but those of modern science as well. She is a trained dietitian who has worked in the Middle East. She has served visiting diplomats and heads of state as well as the executives of many international firms.
Madame Lin is famous not only for her cooking, but also for her mastery of another ancient Vietnamese craft, the modeling of landscapes in small areas. This fountain grotto embraces within its area of perhaps 20 feet in diameter the entire cosmos. It symbolizes not only the mountains and rivers of Vietnam, but also the unity between man, nature, and heaven. The eye begins in the miniature landscape and ascends into the heavens of a beneficent nature that loves mankind and wishes to see it prosper.
The Vietnamese have significant problems in meeting the medical needs of the elderly. There is a very high incidence of nervous disorders in their population, often said to be Parkinson's disease caused by poisoning from agricultural chemicals. There are also many people who still suffer from conditions resulting from the war, including post-traumatic stress syndrome and birth defects, usually said to be the result of dioxin poisoning from American herbicides. To meet these problems, the Vietnamese must rely upon both modern and traditional herbal or holistic medicine. Most treatments are a combination. Given the costs of modernization and development, little can be spared for support of the elderly and the infirm. Once again, it is largely the Vietnamese family that provides for these people.
The Vietnamese population is among the world's youngest. Not only must all these children be housed, fed, and educated, but in a few years their children will compound the problem. Their country has always been tightly controlled, whether by Confucian emperors or modern communist cadres. The central tension facing Vietnam is familiar to all the modernizing societies of the world. What from the past can be adapted, and what will remain of the national identity once their culture meets the future.